So we're fast approaching the new year, and my big project for 2025, and surely the biggest project I'm ever going to do for this YouTube channel, is going through Jack Kirby's The Fourth World, which is an absolutely massive undertaking for Jack Kirby and also for me. It's over 1,400 pages, this omnibus, and there is a lot of extra material, which I'm not going to go through, but most of this book I will be going through page by page, word by word. I'm going to be adding very little commentary, sometimes none, because I just don't think it's necessary. This is a fantastic, fantastic series. It's my second favorite series in the history of comics, and I am biased towards DC. I won't deny it. But my favorite all time is Watchmen, and then this, which is The Fourth World. Although it is not the Silver Age, it is the Bronze Age. It has a very Silver Age feel to it. And I just think it's worth it. It starts off with Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, which Jack Kirby took over. And the other series in there are the Forever People, Mr. Miracle, and the New Gods. So it's basically a crossover by one man, Jack Kirby, who was doing all the art and the writing. The inking was done by Vince Colletta, but other than that, he was doing everything. And as you go through this, if people choose to watch these videos, if you haven't experienced Jack Kirby, and I think very few people watching this haven't read stuff by Jack Kirby, but if you haven't experienced The Fourth World, your question might be, why is this such a big deal? Why is it so influential? Why were these characters that were created in the early 1970s, why are they still so popular today? And you have to kind of get into it. It takes some time, and Grant Morrison did an introduction into The Fourth World in this book where he says that he wasn't a big fan of Jack Kirby growing up, but at some point he got it. He understood Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby ended up influencing his writing significantly, and he used a lot of the different characters that Jack Kirby created. In Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, it starts off kind of strange, and it has the impression that he's taking over a storyline that was already going on, but he wasn't. So we find Morgan Edge is introduced, and Intergang, although not really introduced because they're just there. Morgan Edge has bought the Daily Planet, and we have this group called Intergang, but they're never introduced. It's very strange, and there's a lot of things that Jack Kirby does that seem like they would be really bad as far as writing goes, but it works. It all works. A lot of the speech in here is very unnatural. I prefer naturalistic speech, but it gives it sort of a level of grandiose and epic, kind of like the Lord of the Rings. And what he's really doing, what Jack Kirby's doing, is he's doing world building right there in the DCU. So Superman has a fairly big role in the Fourth World Saga, and I believe that was mandated by the editors because they wanted to have it tethered to the DCU. But I like that they did that. I think it works. When you think of sort of the biggest crossover or the most groundbreaking crossover in DC history, I think most people would think of Crisis on Infinite Earths with a lot of different. There was the core story, and then there were all these crossover stories, and they had a lot of artists and writers. In this case, it was done by one man. And also, Crisis on Infinite Earth came out in 1985. This one started in 1970. So this, to me, is the apex crossover, even though it was all done by one person. And mind you, when Jack Kirby was doing this, as big as this omnibus is, there's another omnibus of equal size of other stuff he was doing. Stuff like Men at War, The Demon, all sorts of other stories he was writing for DC. And there's another omnibus with Commandi. His work rate was ridiculous, and yet the quality remained extremely high. Some of the art is can feel a little rushed at times, even though I think it's brilliant. But his workload was ridiculous, um, and there's a lot of instances throughout history where great artists and writers are given full control and end up creating a vanity project and face planting. But in this case, what Jack Kirby managed to do was stunning and so successful. But unfortunately, it really wasn't successful in its time because the whole series was canceled before it was finished. And in I think it was 1985, he came out with the Hunger Dogs in order to finish the story, but it really felt tacked on. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to see the natural conclusion to the story, and it's still incredibly successful. Um, what we have here is basically the introduction of Darkseid and Calabac and all the different characters, Orion, as Darkseid wages a war on Earth. But what's interesting about it is how multi-pronged the attack is. How many different ways? Sometimes it comes in brute force with uh, with characters like Mantis, who are Superman level, and sometimes it's much more subtle with mind control. Um, so I really am excited to show this because I think that it is one of the most amazing and important storylines in comic book history, and I hope people will enjoy what I do in the presentation and how I put it out there, which is again just going through page by page and reading it. And I'm excited to do this, and I hope people will be excited also to read it. So get ready very shortly for Jack Kirby's The Fourth World.